Nearly 20,000 hostile fans packed into the Moda Center, shouting at the top of their lungs, waiting to tear down one player. Every single time Sophie Cunningham touched the basketball, an avalanche of boos echoed through the arena. The noise was loud, intense, and hostile. It was designed to break her focus, shake her confidence, and drive her right out of the game. But what Portland fans did not realize was that they were walking straight into a trap of their own making. Midway through the first quarter, after being greeted by deafening boos the second she stepped onto the floor, Cunningham caught a transition pass, squared her shoulders, and buried a cold-blooded three-pointer right in front of the opposing bench. She did not just jog back on defense either. She turned right toward the crowd and let them hear it. That single shot changed the entire energy of the Moda Center. What was supposed to be an organized effort to intimidate Sophie Cunningham turned into one of the most embarrassing home blowouts of the entire WNBA season. By the time the final buzzer sounded, the Indiana Fever had racked up 112 points, 6 players scored in double digits, and a mind-blowing total of 13 team and individual records were completely shattered in a single night. This is the story of how a hostile road crowd tried to push the Indiana Fever to their breaking point, only to watch Caitlin Clark, Sophie Cunningham, and an unstoppable offense hand them a lesson they will never forget. Before we break down every single quarter of this historic performance and look at the numbers that are turning the entire league upside down, do us a quick favor. If you are new to the channel, hit that subscribe button right now and turn on the notification bell. We bring you the most in-depth, investigative WNBA coverage every single week, and you definitely do not want to miss what is coming next. To understand why the atmosphere inside the Moda Center was so tense before the opening tip-off even happened, you have to go back to what unfolded off the court over the previous 48 hours. This was not your ordinary road crowd wanting their home team to win a basketball game. This was personal, intense, and deeply tied to off-court media controversies that had been building up along the West Coast. Outside the arena, organized rallies labeled as Sophie Night had gathered crowds of fans and protesters. The tension had been brewing ever since Cunningham voiced her personal opinions during an ESPN interview regarding trans athletes in women's sports. A similar demonstration had taken place outside Climate Pledge Arena when the Fever played the Seattle Storm just days earlier, proving that this was a coordinated campaign following the team from city to city. Things escalated even further when reports surfaced regarding a chaotic incident outside the Seattle game, where 2 teenage fans wearing Cunningham jerseys claimed they were berated by Seattle Storm co-owner Celeste Keaton. By the time Indiana arrived in Portland, the atmosphere was charged. Critics and media outlets were watching closely to see if the noise would rattle the Fever locker room. Reporters repeatedly pressed Indiana Fever head coach Stephanie White during pre-game press conferences, trying to get her to comment on the political controversy and off-court statements. But Coach White refused to take the bait. She maintained total composure, steering every question right back to basketball, team execution, and the growth of her roster. Post-game, White reiterated that a championship locker room does not require every player to share the exact same personal viewpoints as long as they stand united on the floor and protect one another when the lights go on. And when those lights turned on in Portland, Indiana proved just how united they really were. The hostile environment was meant to create a distraction, but instead it served as pure gasoline for an offense that was already firing on all cylinders. From the moment Sophie Cunningham checked into the game midway through the first quarter, the Moda Center erupted in sustained boos. But rather than shrinking under the pressure, Cunningham looked like she was feeding off every single decibel. On her very first offensive possession after checking in, Caitlin Clark poked the ball loose on defense, grabbed the steal, and pushed the pace in transition. Clark drew the defense toward the paint, spotted Cunningham trailing behind the play, and delivered a crisp pass. Cunningham caught it cleanly, rose up without hesitation, and knocked down a smooth three-pointer. As the ball snapped through the net, she turned directly to the hostile crowd, flashed a confident smile, and gave them a clear signal that their noise meant nothing to her. That moment set the tone for the entire evening. Cunningham went on to deliver one of her most efficient and impactful performances of the season off the bench. She finished with 13 points, shooting 4 for 6 from the field and 3 for 5 from behind the arc, while adding 3 key assists and 2 steals in 27 minutes of action. Most impressively, Cunningham finished the night with a team-high +18 ± rating. Every single time Portland tried to generate momentum, Cunningham was there to hit a timely shot, make a defensive stop, or make a hustle play that quieted the arena. The crowd kept booing, and Cunningham kept scoring. It became a vicious cycle for Portland fans. The louder they cheered against her, the more dialed in she became. While Cunningham was providing the emotional spark and physical toughness off the bench, Caitlin Clark was busy conducting an offensive masterpiece that left Portland's coaching staff completely helpless. Entering this game, Portland's defensive strategy was obvious to anyone watching. Back on May 30th, Portland had managed to hold Clark to a season-low 6 points by throwing aggressive full-court pressure at her, sending immediate double teams off ball screens, and using physical fouls to disrupt her rhythm. They tried to execute the exact same game plan in this matchup. From the opening tip, Portland defenders picked Clark up 90 feet from the basket, trapping her the second she crossed half court and trying to force the ball out of her hands. But Caitlin Clark in August is a completely different force than Caitlin Clark in May. Instead of forcing bad shots or getting frustrated by the physical defense, Clark dismantled Portland with surgical precision. When Portland sent extra defenders to trap her at the top of the key, Clark used her elite vision to flash passes over the top of the defense, finding open teammates in space before the help defense could rotate. And when Portland tried to play her straight up, Clark blew past her defenders, drove aggressively into the paint, and forced the referees to blow the whistle. Clark marched to the free throw line 17 times in 40 minutes, knocking down 14 of her free throw attempts. To put that into perspective, Caitlin Clark attempted more free throws by herself than the entire Portland Fire team attempted as a collective unit throughout the entire game. By the middle of the second quarter, Portland's defense was starting to show clear signs of exhaustion. Indiana trailed by 1 point with just over 5 minutes remaining in the first half. That was the moment when the Fever decided to flip the switch. Clark began pushing the tempo off defensive rebounds, finding Kelsey Mitchell running the wings and Aliyah Boston cutting through the lane. Indiana closed the second quarter on a ferocious 21-7 run, turning a tight contest into a 56-47 lead at the halftime break. The energy inside the Moda Center shifted from loud hostility to nervous concern. Let us pause right here for a second because what happened next is something we need to talk about. If you are enjoying this deep analytical breakdown and you want to join the conversation, drop a comment down below right now. Do you think hostile road crowds actually make Caitlin Clark and the Indiana Fever play better? Or was this just a masterclass in roster depth? I read every single comment, so let me know what you think. When the third quarter started, anyone expecting Portland to make a run back into the game was disappointed almost immediately. The Indiana Fever came out of the locker room with ruthless intensity. They opened the third quarter with a staggering 23-7 run, stretching their lead to 18 points in a matter of minutes. Clark was pulling up from deep. Kelsey Mitchell was carving through the defense, and Aliyah Boston was controlling the glass on both ends of the court. By the time the third quarter ended with Indiana holding a 90-72 advantage, the hostile crowd had gone completely quiet. Fans who had spent the first quarter screaming at Sophie Cunningham were now staring at the scoreboard in disbelief as Indiana put on an offensive clinic. A major reason why Portland had no answers for Indiana was the relentless scoring of Kelsey Mitchell. While all eyes were on Clark and Cunningham, Mitchell delivered a scoring performance that matched Clark point for point. Mitchell poured in 26 points of her own, shooting with remarkable efficiency from all 3 levels of the floor. This marked Mitchell's 13th consecutive game scoring 20 or more points, tying legendary WNBA icon Diana Taurasi for the second longest streak of 20-plus point games in league history. The only player sitting ahead of Mitchell on that historic list is A'ja Wilson, who put together a 15-game streak during her 2024 MVP campaign. Mitchell also knocked down 3 triples during the blowout, taking her career total to 749 three-pointers made. With those shots, Mitchell officially passed Hall of Famer Tina Thompson for 6th place on the WNBA all-time three-pointers made list. Furthermore, Mitchell extended her own league record streak by hitting at least 3 three-pointers in 13 consecutive games. Trying to guard Indiana right now is an absolute nightmare for opposing coaches. If you commit your defense to stopping Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell will score 26 points on high efficiency. If you try to stay home on Mitchell, Clark will pick you apart with passes or draw fouls at will. And just when you think you have accounted for Clark and Mitchell, Aliyah Boston steps up and reminds everyone why she is one of the most complete post players in the world. What makes Boston's performance in this game so extraordinary is the context surrounding it. Just 1 game earlier, Boston suffered a terrifying knee injury scare that had Fever fans holding their breath. Many wondered if she would even be able to play against Portland, let alone play at full speed. Not only did Boston suit up, but she put together a defensive and playmaking masterclass that anchored Indiana on both ends of the floor. Boston finished with 14 points, 9 rebounds, 6 assists, 5 steals, and 2 blocks. Her 5 steals led every single player on the floor. When Portland tried to trap Clark on ball screens, Boston became the ultimate short-roll playmaker. She caught passes in the high post and instantly found open cutters or corner shooters before Portland's defense could recover. During Indiana's decisive second-quarter run, Boston generated 3 consecutive steals on defense, single-handedly turning defensive stops into easy transition points. With her scoring performance, Boston also passed Katie Douglas for 3rd place in all-time field goals, made in Indiana Fever franchise history. If you are loving this level of detailed coverage and exclusive breakdown that you simply cannot get from mainstream sports outlets, consider supporting the channel by becoming an official member today. Joining as a channel member gives you access to exclusive analysis, early video releases, and a dedicated community of real basketball fans who pay attention to what actually happens on the floor. Click that join button right below the video to show your support. As the 4th quarter progressed and the outcome of the game was no longer in doubt, Indiana's bench unit continued to push the pace. That brings us to one of the biggest individual storylines of the night, the breakout performance of reserve forward Makayla Timpson. Timpson came into this season facing significant skepticism from media analysts who questioned whether she would even maintain a consistent spot in the rotation. But against Portland, Timpson put on a shooting showcase that blew everyone away. Playing just 19 minutes off the bench, Timpson scored a career-high 15 points on an incredible 7 for 8 shooting from the field, while pulling down 3 rebounds and picking up 2 steals. Timpson's movement off the ball was picture-perfect all night long. Whenever Aliyah Boston or Monique Billings drew double teams inside, Timpson executed sharp 90-degree cuts toward the rim, catching passes in stride and finishing softly around the basket. Starter Monique Billings also delivered a powerhouse performance of her own, contributing 15 points and 7 rebounds on 5 for 9 shooting, while setting a physical tone early with 2 steals and a block. With 6 different Fever players finishing in double figures, Portland's defense was completely overwhelmed. Then, with just 33.8 seconds left on the game clock, a special moment occurred that capped off an unbelievable night of basketball. Caitlin Clark was sitting at 26 points, 10 rebounds, and 9 assists, just 1 assist shy of a triple-double. Timpson walked over to Clark before a key possession, whispering a play call to her point guard. As Indiana brought the ball up the court, Timpson set a firm screen for Clark at the top of the key and rolled hard toward the rim. Clark drew both defenders, delivered a threading pass right into Timpson's hands, and Timpson finished the layup off the glass. That basket gave Timpson her career-high 15th point and handed Caitlin Clark her 10th assist, officializing Clark's 4th career triple-double. In her post-game interview, Coach Stephanie White admitted with a laugh that she did not even realize Clark was close to a triple-double until the team arrived back in the locker room and saw the final box score. Now, let us step back and look at the bigger picture, because what took place in Portland was not just a great win for the Indiana Fever. It was a statistical destruction of the WNBA record book. When you tally up all the milestones achieved during those 40 minutes, a staggering total of 13 team and individual records were completely rewritten in a single night. Let us filter out the media narratives and go through the numbers, because numbers do not lie. First, let us examine Caitlin Clark's individual record count. With her 26 points and 10 assists, Clark became the fastest player in WNBA history to reach 1,500 career points and 500 career assists. She accomplished this feat in just 78 career games, completely smashing the previous record held by legend Sue Bird, who took 112 games to reach that milestone. Clark walked out of the Moda Center with 1,524 career points and 651 career assists. Second, Clark recorded her 4th career triple-double. That ties her with Sabrina Ionescu for 3rd place on the WNBA all-time triple-double list, sitting behind only Alyssa Thomas and Jessica Shepard. But here is the crucial detail that highlights Clark's unique generational talent. No traditional guard in WNBA history has ever recorded 4 triple-doubles. Clark achieved this milestone in under 2 full seasons of professional basketball. Third, over her past 5 games, Clark is averaging 29.4 points, 9 assists, and 3.8 three-pointers per game, while shooting 56% from the field, 49% from three-point range, and 91% from the free throw line, averaging at least 25 points per game while maintaining a 50-40-90 shooting split across a 5-game stretch has never been accomplished by any player in WNBA history. Not by Maya Moore, not by Diana Taurasi, not by Cynthia Cooper, not by anyone. Fourth, Clark remains the only player in WNBA history to rank in the top 3 in both scoring and assists across back-to-back seasons, proving that her combination of elite scoring capacity and floor general playmaking is something the league has literally never had to defend before. When you look at the historical context of guard play in the WNBA, legend after legend has dominated either as a pure scorer or as a pass-first point guard. Greats like Sue Bird built timeless legacies on floor leadership and assist totals, while sharpshooters like Diana Taurasi set standard after standard for pure scoring volume. But Caitlin Clark is doing both simultaneously at an unprecedented rate. She is operating at the absolute peak of offensive efficiency while carrying the highest usage rate in the entire league. That is why sports analysts across national television networks are scrambling to rewrite their season projections. When an offense ranks number 1 in the league in offensive rating and features 2 guards capable of dropping 26 points on any given night, traditional defensive schemes simply break down. Add to that Kelsey Mitchell's 2 records, tying Diana Taurasi for the second longest 20-plus point scoring streak in league history with 13 straight games, and climbing to 6th place on the all-time three-point list with 749 career triples. Add Aliyah Boston's franchise record of climbing to 3rd place in all-time field goals made for the Fever. Add Michaela Timpson's career-high 15 points on 87.5% shooting. And finally top it all off with 2 massive team records for the Indiana Fever. This victory marked Indiana's 13th 100-point game of the season, setting a new single-season franchise record with 16 games still remaining on the schedule. Even more historic, this blowout victory marked Indiana's 5th consecutive game, scoring 100 or more points. That is an all-time WNBA record. No franchise in the history of women's professional basketball has ever scored 100-plus points in 5 straight games. Across social media platforms and fan forums, people are calling this streak the most dominant offensive run in modern women's basketball. That is not a feeling. That is just math. If this deep analytical breakdown opened your eyes to what is really happening behind the scenes in the WNBA, share this video right now with a friend or basketball fan who needs to see the real story. And if you have not subscribed to the channel yet, now is the perfect time to hit that button. When you look at everything that transpired in Portland, the takeaway is crystal clear. Opposing teams and hostile crowds can organize rallies, shout from the stands, and try to create off-court distractions all they want. But when the ball is tipped, games are won on the floor. Indiana went into one of the most hostile road environments in the league, faced a crowd determined to rattle Sophie Cunningham, and responded by dropping 112 points and shattering 13 records. With this win, the Indiana Fever improved to 19 wins and 10 losses on the season, solidifying their position at 4th in the overall league standings and maintaining the best record in the Eastern Conference. They are playing their best basketball at the exact right time, proving that their roster depth, mental toughness, and offensive firepower make them a legitimate championship contender. Subscribe to the channel right now and hit that notification bell so you never miss an update as we follow Indiana's historic season. And tell me down in the comments, do you think hostile road crowds are actually fueling the Indiana Fever's dominance? Or can any team in the league stop this offense right now? Drop your thoughts below. I read every single comment. Thank you for watching, and we will see you in the next one.